The following program contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Yes, coming to you cordless, everybody. Greetings from Minneapolis. It's Wednesday night, October 22nd, 2025. I am Jim Peters, and welcome to another edition of Jim Peters Tonight, episode number 285. Mark your scorecards. Someday there'll be a test. I'm happy to announce to you that my flu is finally over. 9 days. What a bunch of crap. Man. And the thing is, and so our booker here, Kimberly, she had the flu too, and we're just getting back to firing on all cylinders. So I mean, we've done in the last 2 weeks. I think this is only the third show we've done because I've been sick, we almost didn't do a show tonight too. Our guest did not show up. Now we do this show live, and I'll get to that in a second, but we pre-tape our interviews because of to avoid technical problems. And as time has gone on, we've had more and more of them. This is our 285th show. I'm going to tell you right now, this is our 285th show, but this is, I think, only the third show where none of it is live at all. We're pre-taping all of this. We pre-taped it around 6 o'clock this afternoon because Leslie Corby, our guest who was scheduled for tonight, did not show up. Now, normally I wouldn't name a guest that didn't show up, but I love this woman, and we'll have her on again. We don't know what happened. I talked to her booker, her publicist. No one actually knows where she is. No one's been able to figure out why she did not show. So I hope she's okay. She had a book that came out yesterday. The book is called Progressive Prejudice, Exposing the Devouring Mother. Fascinating woman. Really interesting conversationist. Well, she's been on the show before about 3-4 months ago, I think it was. And so I had her on specifically because her book came out yesterday, her new book. So we'll talk to her again. Anyway, so we did not, this show, so I'm going to yak for a few minutes. We do the Jimcast. Usually we do our show in 3 parts. We have a short introduction like I'm doing now. We have an interview. Then we have what we call the Jimcast, which is where I do my weird, stupid, paranormal newscast, sort of, kind of, whatever the hell it is. I talk. So that's all this show is going to be. I'm going to be yakking. So hopefully I have something interesting to tell you folks. I'd like to think I do. It's not that we don't talk about the news that other people talk about it. We usually have a little factoid that no one ever brings up. And that's the reason I like to do this stuff. And because I want to tell you those things. And I got an outline tonight. Almost every single news story on here has some weird thing that you probably did not hear any other place. So, anyway, tomorrow night, Michael Pack is going to be here. He's the director of a new documentary coming out on PBS on November 10th called The Last 600 Meters. And it is about 2 different conflicts, battles during the Iraq War. And also, he's the former vice president of programming for PBS too. So it'll be interesting to see what he has to say about all that also. So he's going to be coming on tomorrow night. We have guests. We're lining guests up for next week. Like I said, we've basically been running on fumes here for the last 2-3 weeks. So my apologies. We're just finally getting our crap together. So that's what's going on this end. I hope you're feeling well. I hope things are going well in your world. God, the flu was nasty. And usually I went to my birthday weekend 2 weekends ago. We got back on Monday. Literally on the trip home, I could tell I was getting sick, and I was bedridden. And I don't know about you. You want to get it over quick. All right, okay, so we're sick. 3, 4 days, right? No, no, try 9. Try 9 days. And even now, I have a little bit of phlegm, so I hope that doesn't I feel fine, but I hope that doesn't bother me in talking here. Okay, so what's going on here? First of all, the big news today, because there's no news today, it's a slow news day, is this extension that Trump's putting onto the White House. So I want to tell you a little factoid here. The left completely gone bonkers on this. He's destroying democracy, he's destroying the White House, blah, blah, blah. So just to reiterate, in case you don't know, Trump is building a ballroom onto what is the East Wing extension onto the White House. Ballroom's going to hold 600 people. There's never been a space at the White House. The biggest space they have is the East Room, and it holds 200 people seated at tables. And most of the foreign dignitary parties they have are the only reason they're not any bigger than that is because they can't get more people in the room. So and it's been pointed out many times, the White House is one of the few premier executive residences in the world that does not have a space like this. So Trump said, "Well, screw it, let's build one." It's his all. He says it's his money and a few investors, a few donors. I think it's probably almost all entirely his money, $250 million. So they started tearing down part of the East Wing yesterday, and everybody got in a complete kerfuffle. Now, two things have happened since then. This afternoon, they first announced they were only going to tear down part of the East Wing. Now they're saying that after consideration and going through the building, because of structural problems, they're going to tear down the whole thing. And my complaint to the Trump administration is, if they knew this beforehand, they should have just said so. They should have just bitten the bullet and said. Up till now, they've been saying no. Most of it's still going to be there. Now they're saying they're going to tear down the whole thing. Okay, they should have been transparent and announced that at the beginning. There's a possibility they didn't know, but they've been kind of. It sounds like they've been weaselly about it. But this is the part I want you to understand. And other people have run this, especially the right wing press has run this story too, about all the additions and changes have been made to the White House over the last 100 or so years, going back way back to Teddy Roosevelt. Well, I think if I'm right, he was the person who actually built the East Wing. The East Wing is not an original part of the White House. I mean, the White House was built in 1899. I'm pulling that out of my butt. I think so. It was 1900, if I think. George Washington was never stayed there. He over saw the construction, and then John Adams, the second president, if I'm right, was the first president to stay there. But so that's since like 1800. So the major additions to the and changes to the White House, they have been basically roughly since 1900. I think actually technically 1902, if I'm right. But this is the part you have to understand. In 1948 to 50, Harry Truman gutted the whole building. The whole thing. The only thing that's original of the White House is the original 4 walls. That's it. That's it. They gutted everything. Now, they did a pretty good job being faithful to the interior architecture, replacing it. Like, for example, the Lincoln bedroom is where the Lincoln bedroom was in the old White House. But it's not the old White House. It isn't. It's that everything in the White House, all of it is none of it is pre 1950. None of it. They redid the whole thing because apparently in 1950 it was basically falling apart. The entire interior of the building was built out of wood, and at that point it was 150, 170 years old, and they said, "Screw it, this is not working." So they replaced it, and now with modern steel girders inside the White House. But literally, the only thing that they left were the 4 exterior walls. That was it. Everything else was new. So people are talking about, oh, they're destroying history. There's no history there. There's none. It's already been taken care of. They've done it already. Had to get that off my chest. It's like these are little things that people do not know, So it's like, yeah, and you're talking about first of all, Trump's approval ratings are actually pretty good right now. They're higher than Obama's were. And secondly, you have to understand how unpopular Harry Truman was at that time. He left office in 1952, or actually 53, as the most unpopular president and since they started measuring, which was with his term, basically, with his first and second term. They started actually measuring polling for approval ratings for president. Next to him is George W. Bush. Harry Truman left office with a 24% approval rating. George W. Bush left with a 28. And right now, Trump's is, at least if you do go the averages of the polls, is just under 50%, I think, if I'm correct. So anyway, election day is 13 days from today. In New York City, it appears the city is going to elect a communist as a mayor. And regardless of what he says, I'm not a communist, I'm a socialist. No, he has advocated for for the government seizing the means of production in manufacturing, and that's communism. That's the actual definition, one of the definitions of communism. So Mamdani is a communist, and it appears he's going to be the next mayor of New York City. And people are talking, well, the latest polling is that if Sliwa got out, there's a possibility that Cuomo would be within striking distance of winning. I'm very, very. This is and the New York Post ran an editorial 2 days ago saying literally they started the editorial. It says it burns us to say this, and they asked Lewell to get out of the race, and I understand why he doesn't want to. First of all, he's the only Republican. Now it's an extremely Democratic city. It's literally the single most Democratic city in the United States in terms of the voting preferences or the registered voters. I think it's 92% of Manhattan, if I'm right, is registered Democrat. It's unbelievable. So you got that. So I understand he doesn't have a chance of winning. He doesn't, which is unfortunate. If I lived in New York City, I would vote for him myself. And also, it's been pointed out, I'm not the only person who pointed this out, that Cuomo has really run a piss poor campaign. First of all, he's a bad candidate to begin with. I mean, highly tainted because of both COVID and all that sex stuff he went through. And secondly, he's just run a bad campaign. It's been pointed out the reason Mamdani is resonating with some of the voters is because he keeps talking about trying to make the city more affordable, and the city is really, really pricey. It just is, and for all his Cuomo's wonderful universe of wonderfulness, there he doesn't seem to want to. He hasn't really broached that subject, so he's run a really, really bad campaign, and I don't want him to be mayor of New York. I don't want Mamdani less. And pretty much everybody with a brain seems to think that too. But it looks like right now he's going to win. So I guess I brought this up because I'm torn about this too. I don't think Sliwa should get out. I don't. Like I said, he's representing the Republican Party, and so they've got three people. Technically, Cuomo's an independent because he lost the Democratic primary to Mamdani. So you got Mamdani's the Democrat, Sliwa's the Republican, and you got an independent. And the Mayor Adams dropped out. Eric Adams dropped out, and he was also running as independent. So I don't really want to tell him to do that, But on the other hand, no, he doesn't have a chance in a little winning. He doesn't. He would have a tough time even if it was favorable for him. I mean, the last Republican mayor of New York was Giuliani, and that's because David Dinkins completely stunk the place up, totally. I mean, as a general rule, Republicans do not win in the city of New York. They just don't because there's so many registered Democrats. So anyway, you got that. Then you got here in Minneapolis, we were pretty much running the same thing. We got a guy named Fawway, and I have to bring up the fact he's Somalian because here the Somalis have not only taken over the state Democratic Party, but the Somali community is completely overrun with fraud. It was the Somali community that stole $250 million for during the COVID thing from the federal government. It's the single biggest scam ever run in U.S. history on a federal level. 250, $250 million. 51 people were convicted, and 48 of them were Somalians. Now, also, this guy who's running in Minneapolis, he's also been accused by the local Democratic Party of cheating in the endorsement race. In other words, he cheated in his own party. They're saying that. So they pulled the endorsement from him and decided to give it to nobody. And he is contesting this, but no, the local Democratic Party is saying he cheated the endorsement election at the convention. It's like these people, they only know fraud. And for years, it's been accused that Ilhan Omar, who's the representative of the district I'm sitting in this very minute, that she pays people to vote for her. And that's not my accusation. The Minneapolis Star Tribune accused her of this. It's the local major newspaper said she's paying people to vote for her. It's just unbelievable. So it's just all around. And this Fawe guy, he seems like a complete utter nobody, like a complete dork, you know. So we got that going here too. Meanwhile, Trump has deported 2 million illegal immigrants from the country in the first 9 months. And let me get this right here. 1.6 million of them self-deported, and ICE has kicked out 400,000 others, which is actually pretty impressive considering the fact they did that in way less than a year. My whole thing on this, the rough estimate of Joe Biden's term is that 10 million illegal immigrants came into the United States, and I said that in Trump's 4 years, he'd be lucky if he got rid of half of them. And amazingly, this whole No Kings thing and all these people protesting ICE, Trump, as far as kicking out criminal illegal immigrants, that's a 90-10 issue. Almost the entire public agrees with this. But amazingly, the last poll I saw, 55% of Americans said they even think Trump should kick out the ones who are leading peaceful lives. That they're illegal, they should be kicked out. And the thing about the self deportation is that you get $1,000, you get a free flight to anywhere you want to go, and you get to re-register to come into the country legally, and that's pretty. And the thing is, if you don't take it and ICE catches you and deports you, you're screwed. Then you can't come back at all. So it's the fact they got 1.6 million people to sign on to this is pretty impressive. And especially when most other countries where these people come from, $1,000 can go a long way. So that's the hidden thing here, is that there's 55% of the public thinks that they should kick out everybody who's illegal, regardless of their status or how they behaved. So that's kind of interesting, if you ask me anyway. Today, Amy Wallace, who was Virginia, and I think I'm pronouncing this woman's name right, Virginia Giuffre's ghostwriter for her memoir that came out, a few days, last week, I think it was. She says that there is an Epstein client list, and she says she knows all the names on it. She actually knows. And in writing the book with Virginia, and Virginia Giuffre killed herself a couple of weeks ago, if I'm right. She was 41, lived just a terrible life, apparently. I mean, talking about being exploited. And I don't know if she killed herself because she knew the book was coming out. It's hard to discern, but this Amy Wallace woman, she says that in writing the book with Virginia Giuffre, she's now aware of, first of all, she says she's aware there is an actual list She said, regardless of what the government says, there is an actual list, and she knows the DHS has it and the DOJ, that they have the list. She says she knows that. And she also says in writing the book with Virginia, she knows all the people on it. And apparently it's some of this could be pretty explosive. She just said this afternoon. So there, you got that. And finally, in terms of international news, Nicolas Sarkozy, the former prime minister of France, went to jail on Tuesday for 5 years. Now, this is the part of and once again, it's a part of the story you probably, even if you know this, you probably haven't heard this. So he was convicted of orchestrating, conspiring for a plan to illegally raise money for his campaign for prime minister. It was prime minister, right? Or was it president? No, he was president. I'm sorry. And that's an important distinction. He was president of France, not prime minister. Uh, but the amazing thing is he was convicted of conspiring with his aides to orchestrate the scheme. This is in 2007. But he was acquitted of personally using the funds. In other words, he personally never saw any of the money. And I'm thinking, okay, so call me a bleeding heart. I don't know. It's like I'm starting to think that when it comes to these campaign things are so murky. Not only this is like not just in France, but here in the United States. I don't think it serves the public or anybody. I'm not saying he shouldn't go to jail. I'm not saying that, but 5 years seems like too much to me. I mean, as a general rule, I personally think that the incarceration rates for white collar crime are too high and for violent crime are too low. No, Sarkozy is not going to pose any threat to the public, whether he's in jail or not. He isn't. And for most people, I mean, this is going to be pretty tough for him. He's in a solitary confinement prison. Now, relatively speaking, especially considered here in the United States, he has it fairly good. For example, he has a telephone in a cell, landline, no cell phone, but a landline. He has a telephone in a cell. He has a television. I guess it's black and white. They don't allow color. But he has a TV, and he gets to go out 1 hour a day, but he's alone. It's basically solitary confinement. So if you're used to living well, that's pretty tough. And even a year of that could be pretty harsh, you know? Whereas a guy like the guy who shot Charlie Kirk, he's a danger to society. And this is another thing, too, that for years I've been thinking this. In the United States, anyway, the idea is to punish the perpetrator, to punish the guilty, the convicted. I don't know if I think that we should start to factor in danger to society if someone's not in jail. And right now, judges are not supposed to take that into account. That is not considered part of the penal system in the United States, at least federally, and I think on most state levels too. And I think it should be. I mean, the guy who shot Charlie Kirk, he's a danger to society. Who knows if you do that again? It was just brought up that Trump, one of the first things he did the first week in office is he pardoned all 1,500 people that were jailed for the January 6th riot. Okay, all right. Now and people say, well, he should have commuted the sentences, but they were already in jail for 4 years. So, and his thing is, no one in that group deserved to be incarcerated for longer than 4 years. And personally, I agree. It was not an insurrection, but it was a riot. Some people did wreck stuff, and I do not think the people who just walked into the Capitol and looked around should have been incarcerated. Some of them were, but the people actually did wreck stuff. Yeah, okay, you wreck stuff. It's a riot. Well, one of those people that was actually one of the major perpetrators of that got out of jail, and he threatened. Who was it that he threatened? Hakeem Jeffries. He threatened his life online, and very distinctly. I read this stuff. And this guy did. He's a danger to society. You know, he should, first of all, he's going to be tried just for threatening Jeffries. And that's against the law. You can't do that, especially a member of Congress. I think the the incarceration rates or the punishments are higher, but it is against the law in the public to post online to say, I'm going to kill you. You can't do that. So this guy's nuts. He's a danger to society. He should be put away for 20 years. He should be left off the street. But you know, and conversely, the people who just wandered into the Capitol and looked around, I don't think they should have been incarcerated at all. Pardon me. That guy who came in with the big headdress on. Oh, what? Give him a month. I don't know. Did he wreck anything? No. Did he do anything? No. It's like, but no one made any distinction here, and it was obvious the Biden administration wanted to make an example of these people because they said it was an insurrection. You stopped a formal congressional hearing. Yeah, okay, maybe some people did. You know, man, I just can't. This is not on my outline here. Corinne Jean Pierre, is going on our book tour. First of all, here's something you may not know. Everyone's making fun of Kamala Harris on a book tour. Her book's selling quite well. That surprises me too. I thought nobody's going to buy this. Nope, I was wrong. No, it's selling quite well. Well, Corinne Jean Pierre is on her book tour, and she insists she never saw any mental impairment in President Biden. She insists that's true. But like everyone says, for her to admit otherwise would mean that basically she's part of a conspiracy, you know? So she's not going to do that. She's quit the Democratic Party, believe it or not. It's like she's done that too. So, I mean, what a clusterfuck. It's just like that whole thing. My God, All right, so you guys probably know this on Monday. There were problems with the interweb. All sorts of stuff went wrong because of a problem with something called Amazon Web Services. Now, let me explain to you what this is because I've been involved in many projects that have used this. Amazon Web Services is a collection of web services that are offered to people that run other websites and other apps on your phone. Like, for example, they offer database services. They offer storage services. Here's an example. Every Netflix movie you watch, everything you watch on Netflix is stored on an Amazon server. Matter of fact, Netflix started with their own servers and decided, screw this. It's actually cheaper, way cheaper if we let Amazon do it and way more reliable. And that's the other thing. The reason people do this, the reason it's so popular is because it's really quite inexpensive and very, very reliable. And well, it wasn't reliable on Monday. As a matter of fact, this, as far as I can tell, this is the first time in the history of Amazon Web Services that any of it ever went down. I remember I've been involved in projects where we've used this. Now, here at the show here, directly anyway, right now, we are not using any of their services. But I do not know about our contractors, like the people that send out our signal and all that sort of stuff. Some of them might. I don't see any place where they might, but that doesn't mean I know anything, you know. But here's the hidden. They fixed that in like few hours, but it rippled through the internet for a couple of days. Here's the thing you might not know about this. So Amazon as a company, well, you think they sell stuff, and they do sell stuff. They sell primarily web services. Amazon Web Services makes up 20% of Amazon's sales revenue. That's including all the crap that you buy, golf balls and heaters and all that stuff you buy on Amazon, all that merchandise. Amazon Web Services makes up 20% of their sales revenue and 60% of their total operating profit. It's extremely profitable for them. Even though, like I said, the primary reason so many people use this is because it's both extremely reliable and very cheap. So Netflix started building their own server infrastructure to serve all their movies. And they finally turned around and said, well, Jesus Christ, Amazon can do this cheaper than we can, and it's going to work just as well. And they dumped it. They dumped their server farm, and they use Amazon exclusively. So you're talking about, and this is true of a lot of companies. I've worked for companies that have no server infrastructure. Everything is contracted out, and one of the primary places you go is Amazon Web Services. So I just want to let you know that they make a shitload of money doing this. That's the thing. And yes, and their primary competitors are Google and Microsoft. That's true. But Amazon, they were first, and they're also the cheapest, and they're reliable, and they have the bulk of the market. People are bitching about the fact that AI, there's now this thing called Soros 2, and if I'm correct, it's run by ChatGPT by OpenAI company. I'm not sure. But Soros 2 can manufacture videos. And you type in a description of what you want the video to do and look like, and it will render a version of that that's extremely lifelike. I've talked about this before. I've seen samples of this where, in most instances, I've been looking at AI stuff for so long now that I'm pretty good eye. I can tell when it's fake. In most of the instances, I could not tell it was fake. I couldn't, and it's done completely off a text prompt. So Hollywood is completely up in arms about the fact that that this is going to replace everybody, and it is. And I think in 2 or 3 years we're going to see the first feature film. Right now, these videos can only be, I think, 2 minutes in length. That's the most they can do. Well, you can, if you know how to do it. Matter of fact, I've done it because we had to do it years ago. If you know how to do it, you can construct a whole movie out of scenes that are 1 minute or less. If you know how, if you have to play, you can plan it. You have to plan it out quite well, but you can do that. And right now, there's no continuity. Source 2 can't remember uh, your prompts from one video to the next. But very shortly, I'm sure they'll take care of that. And in 2 or 3 years, you will see the first feature film generated by one single person sitting at a keyboard. That's going to happen. It's good. It will basically be, it'll be our version, the 21st century version of movies going from silent pictures to talkies. That's going to be the deal. So you'll have one person and a bunch of computers who will create a feature film with no help involved at all. That's easily within 2030. I think it'll be between about in the next 2 years. I think that's going to happen. Right now, here's the little hidden fact that you don't know in this, and that is it's been estimated now that AI has replaced 200,000 people working in Hollywood. You got that right, 200,000. That's the best estimate anyone has of how many jobs have been replaced by AI. And we're just getting started. The irony is, they thought the first place AI would replace humans is screenwriting. And that hasn't happened because, AI can write a script really badly. They're really, really trite, and the plots are really bad and stupid. And no, right now, but that's the irony of this whole thing. That's the part that that AI still can't do well. Is it can't come up with a script from scratch, but the rest of it, even actors and stuff. I mean, there's this woman. Her name's, I can't remember, Tilly. What's her name? Who's actually has a rep at a she's an AI actress. She doesn't exist, and she's being rep by major talent firm. Yeah. So yeah, no. AI. It's the same with writing songs. You can get AI to generate incredible multi-track recordings of pop music, but the actual lyrics, terrible. No, that's the thing. Nobody uses the AI to write lyrics because if it's really bad at it, it can do it. That's the thing. It can do it badly. So you don't want that. So the other thing that came out today, and this was in Popular Mechanics, and that is there's a church in England that now it doesn't have an AI priest, but it has an AI robot that stands at the front of the church when people are leaving and will answer questions about religion. Yeah, you got that right. And people are highly divided on this. Some people find this very, very illuminating, and some people find it disturbing as hell, as you might imagine. So and that gets to the thing that was in hot air today. John Sexton wrote an article about the fact that the real problem with AI is that AI doesn't know a lot. So the reason AI knows so much, the reason I use Copilot because it's cheap. The reason it knows so much is because it's basically devoured every single piece of video, text, and imagery on the internet. That's the reason. But there's a lot of stuff that isn't on the internet, and if it isn't on the internet, unless it's been specifically fed into what's called the large learning model of most AI programs, it does not register. And he brought this out. A lot of other people have brought this out too. Like, for example, there's all sorts of terms, specific terms that are used in specific industries that most people outside of those industries don't know, and they've never been really written down. Nobody ever writes them down, or they just compiles a glossary or that sort of thing. The example he used in his article is the diamond industry in New York City. Now, the diamond district, the gem district in in New York City is very specific. It goes back generations. It's a familial thing, and there's all sorts of terms that people use there that people from outside you would not know what they're talking about, and that's true. And that stuff does not register because that stuff is not plugged into the internet. No one ever bothered to type it in. So that's he's saying the problem with the AI is nowhere near as smart as people think it is, and it isn't. And on top of that, and this is really important, AI makes mistakes. AI is often wrong. I mean, especially I like I said, I use Copilot all the time. I'm constantly typing in ridiculous questions. I haven't had many conversations with it yet. A couple, but uh, and mostly those are about like paranormal science and stuff like that. I want to see what it knows because I talk about that a lot here. But uh, I have uh, I was going to say use the word Google. I don't want to use Google because it's a Microsoft product. I have typed stuff into Copilot, and I know because of my professional expertise that the answer is wrong. I know that, and that happens not frequently but regularly. And so that's scary. You can't depend on this. It's like it's one thing in a panoply of places you should go to get answers. You know, books, talking to people. So I mean, it's like it's legit, but you can't depend. It's not all being all knowing and all seeing. It isn't. You can't do that. So, speaking of paranormal stuff, so there's there's this. I've talked about this on the show in the past. There's this thing called the Boogosphere. This thing is a steel ball or what are now called spheres or orbs, that was caught flying around Buca, Colombia, about a year ago, I think it was, and it crashed basically. And they don't know if it hit a power line or what the hell. I mean, there's all sorts of videos of this thing flying through the air, taken from multiple angles, multiple locations. A bunch of people in Colombia and Buga, Colombia, saw this thing, and it crash landed. It landed, and somebody went and picked it up, which people are saying this is the first. Uh, Non-governmental UFO. It's the first UFO that was not scooped up by some government somewhere. And by the way, the guy who actually picked it up, he got really bad radiation poisoning. I guess he's okay, but he was sick for quite a while. He literally picked it up with his hands. It's about the size of a basketball, and it has really weird writing on it. They've run the writing through, believe it or not, AI to try to dissect it, and they did come up with a translation, but it was really kind of flowery. I can't remember what it was. It's like, um, anyway, this thing has been touted as, like I said, as the first non-governmental UFO ever captured, and they've x-rayed it, and it does appear to have high level electronics in it, a lot of fiber optics, a lot of what appear to be computer chips inside of it. They don't know how it flies. It has gained weight since the people who have it. It's gained weight since they've had it in the last year. This thing has gained weight because they think that it weighed less to facilitate its non-gravitational flying. That's what they think. Now it appears to be broken, and they're trying to, by running electricity through it, they're trying to kind of spark it back to life because they want to see if it connects to another body, which it should, because these things, the theory is that these things are networked all over the world. I mean, everyone sees these things are seen all over the place. This is the first one time anyone has ever captured one of them. They're seen, and the guy named Patrick Jackson in the UK, who's an information research scientist, he figured out that they're all networked together, and they're hoping. It appears that it is defunct or dormant. That the example they have doesn't work anymore, but they're trying to get it to work because they want to see what it connects to, and also they don't know how it flies. They can't figure that out either. So there you go. You got that stuff going on. I know you like that. I know you like that shit. I know that. I know. And speaking of that, the Pope, uh, he gave a talk recently, a few days ago. He made some vague references to extraterrestrials, and the Daily Star in the UK, they were talking about the fact that Pope said, this has been rumored for years that the Vatican has something to do with this. David Grush, in one of his congressional testimonies, that whistleblower, he said he has claimed that he has seen documents that the U.S. government retrieved an crashed UFO spacecraft from Italy in 1933, and that the Vatican brokered that exchange because Mussolini was running uh, Italy in 1933. So at the end of the war, the Vatican facilitated the Americans picking that thing up, and that we took it. So the war ended in 45. So that means they had it for 12 years. Now that's what he claimed that, but he did claim that under oath in a congressional hearing. And also, and this was not in none of the articles I read about this right now, but I know this is true. I think it was in 2017, and I have to make a distinction here because this isn't something that Pope said, but the Vatican, quote unquote, the Vatican said this. So I don't know if you know this. The Vatican owns two large telescopes. One's on the outskirts of Rome, and the other one, believe it or not, is in Arizona. They own it. They own telescopes, and they have a chief astronomer. And I can't remember the guy's name. I don't know if it's the same still, but I think it was 2017 or 2018. The chief astronomer of the Vatican. They ran an article in the Vatican newspaper, a front page, if we're correct, saying that we should expect at some point humanity should expect to hear from extraterrestrials. The Vatican said that. Now the Pope didn't come out and talk about it. He personally didn't. That was, I think, Pope John Paul II, if I'm right. He did not come out and talk about this, or maybe it was Pope Benedict. I can't remember. But the chief astronomer of the Vatican was quoted in the Vatican newspaper as saying this, and people wonder, well, what the hell? It appears that the Vatican has been trying to get ahead of this thing, and they have a good point. I personally do not think at all that the discovery of extraterrestrials negates Catholicism. I not think it does. You got your Jesus, but then the people say, well, did Jesus is Jesus to save the sins of everyone in the universe or just people here on Earth? Well, I hate to say this, but I think it's just people here on Earth. That's my personal opinion, you know. But I don't think it has anything to do with the people on Zeta Reticula. I don't think it does. But their point they're trying to make is that just because people come here from other planets, I call them people because they are, doesn't mean that it negates any sort of religion here on Earth, and it doesn't. And I'm glad they're pushing this line, and they should, because I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I've gone on the record saying this on this show and on my previous shows at Con News about the fact that I'm I'm here advocating for the fact that people should get used to the fact that the extraterrestrials are coming to Earth because they are. It's indisputable at this point. I don't care what Neil deGrasse Tyson, that stupid scientist, I don't care what he says. There's so much overwhelming evidence of this, and your friends and my friends, you know, I mean, this is slowly coming into the human consciousness that we're being visited, and we're being visited. And my point is, and the reason I talk about this is I want you to get used to it as it's happening. Now, that said, I'm not certain the government should come out and just admit it. I'm not certain they should, because I think there's still. This is from my friend, the late great Jazz Shaw, who was a UFO reporter for Salem Media and wrote for the Debrief. He was on the show many times, and this is the only thing we really disagreed with. He thought the public's ready to hear this. And it's not so much I don't think the public's ready to hear this. It's that if we tell Americans, we tell the world. I think there's a lot of people in a lot of other countries who aren't ready to hear it. That's what I'm thinking right now. I don't I you know the standard line from the government that you've always heard clandestinely, or that I've always heard of people who do this sort of listen to this sort of stuff, is that the public isn't ready for it. The public will go mad. I do think some of the public will go mad. Now, why am I telling you this then? Because you want to listen to the show and watch the show, I think you might be a little smarter than the average Joe. That's why. I think you can handle it. And that's my point here. You got to get used to this. We're being visited. That's all there's to it. These people, and once again, I call them people from other planets, are coming here, and they've been coming here for a long time. Matter of fact, I have a hard time. Read a book recently by a guy named R.L. Poole, and he is. I actually wrote the name of his book down here. Hold on a second. What the heck was the name of his book? I thought I typed it in. Well, I guess I didn't. What the heck? What do I know? It's called Beneath the Haunted Sky. That's what it's called. And it's mostly about, now he's a scientist, and it's also about his personal abductions. He says he's been abducted by aliens many times. He says being abducted by aliens from the Zeta Reticuli complex, which is where these little gray aliens come from. But he says he asked them point blank why they're doing this, why they abduct people. Now, according to Gallup did a poll I think it was about 10 years ago. By extrapolation, they concluded, based on their polling, that roughly 2% of the American public has probably been abducted. And you're talking about 7 million people. And my first thought is first thought, well, that's crazy. You couldn't do that. How could you abduct so many people? You could do it if you had a lot of people flying around and nothing else to do. And that's my point here. So we had a guy named John Adams on, and I don't think John Adams runs a website called Adventures in Remote Viewing. He was on about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks. So he writes a website and also dabbles in and experiments with remote viewing, which is the ability for you to project your mind to another place without actually physically going there. Okay. Now the government ran a project called Stargate. Officially, they said their conclusions were "quote unquote" inconclusive, but it's been widely reported that they determined that this worked, and there's people who are stars of this field and all sorts of stuff. So, okay, why did I bring this up? the I brought this up because uh, oh, uh, so John Adams was on, and the reason I specifically had him on is he ran a very interesting experiment. He sent 6 remote viewers to this thing that's flying through the solar system called 3i Atlas, which on Tuesday was exactly opposite of the Earth through the sun. It was on the exact opposite side of the sun from the Earth on Tuesday, 2 days ago. Well, yesterday. No, what I'm talking about was Wednesday. And he said that all 6 of them came back with similar stories. He said it is an artificial construct. It's an unmanned drone. And he also said, this is interesting, a couple of the reviewers said that they were asked about the people who built it. And they said, well, they're highly technologically advanced and they're bored. And here's the deal. R.L. Poole says the aliens that have abducted him have told him that their society is 2 million years old. Now, as a comparison, uh, we on Earth, Homo sapiens have only been around for 100,000 years, and our civilization has only really existed for about 15,000 years. And on top of that, this is really important, we've only had electricity for 150 years. And the iPhone you have in your pocket is not even 20 years old. Okay? So we're as my late brother-in-law said, we're 2 weeks out of the trees. He's right about that. He is. So now, can you imagine what our technology is going to be like, assuming we survive 2 million years from now? That's nuts. I can't wrap my mind around that. Well, the guys that John Adams sent, these 2 people who said that they're bored. You think about this. You after 2 million years, you pretty much conquered everything. There's no physical need. There's no disease. There's probably no disease. There's no nothing. At this point, you know freaking everything. So you're saying, well, how could they abduct 7 million people? I'll tell you why. They have nothing else to do. Literally. You stop and think, you have an enormous population after 2 million years. You've got nothing else to do. You've mastered everything. And this is the actual thing that Poole said they told him when he asked him why they do this. They came back with a question. He said, what they said was, what would you do if evolution was no longer your friend? And what they meant by that, they explained, and that is after 2 million years, and this has always been my hypothesis too. After 2 million years, evolution was basically turning on them. They had physically evolved to the point where they not only were they not evolving anymore, but evolution was trying to kill them off. Because I've always said, well, if you're, my thing is if your society is that old, if your civilization is that old, at some point, maybe you run out of random DNA sequences. Literally, you run out of them. I mean, I'll just use this for example. There's 12 notes in the Western musical scale, right? There's about 100 million different combinations of those 12 notes. That doesn't even account for rhythm. That's just putting them in order. There's 100 million combinations roughly. You can come up for 12 things. So if you're talking about if you're on DNA, which is extremely long and complex, you're talking about probably quintillions of combinations. But after 2 million years, maybe you exhaust them. Maybe that's the thing. Well, anyway, he said, to cut a long story short, the reason they're coming here is they're trying to create a hybrid species with them and us. That's what they're trying to do, so that they survive in some manner or fashion. And they determined that either that we were extremely physically hardy and maybe kind of stupid. So they would blend their intellect with our physique. That's what they told him. So yeah. Okay, so yeah, you don't have to believe me on that sort of stuff. So it's I'm just telling you what I read, and but that makes sense to me. And I thought, yeah, if you were really bored, you'd fly around the universe, basically trying to inseminate people. You'd probably do that because you got nothing else to do. So, all right, I think I'm done for tonight. Because you're not going to buy that story, are you? That's tomorrow night. Michael Pack's going to be here. He's the producer and director of the film The Last 200 Meters. It's going to be on PBS on Veterans Day on November 10th. He's joining us tomorrow, and we have people coming on. I'm going to end with this because I actually posted this. Here's a woman who spent $20,000 making it. She says she has the biggest lips in the world, but those are her real lips. So I use that for the show description tonight. Because yeah, okay, alrighty, 20 grand, 20 grand to look like that. God bless her. God bless you. Good night, Uncle Donnie, wherever you are, and good night to you, wherever you may be. We'll see you tomorrow night, everybody. Thanks. Take care.